Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we got a 2014 Chevy Sonic. It's a 1.8 liter ecotec engine. What we got going on today is a coolant leak. So this is my wife's car. I noticed it about a week ago when I went to change the oil that there was a little bit of coolant dripping down underneath the car. So if I get down here, you can see it's running down the transmission here, that orange. See it right here. It's coming down, dripping on the driveway. So what I think it is, I think it's coming from that thermostat housing. You can see it's right there. Coolant. And I noticed too that her reservoir bottle has been going low pretty quick, and this tells me why. So within a matter of a week, it went from just barely being noticeable to having a small puddle under the car. So we're gonna go ahead and get that housing off and see what it looks like. All right, so the first thing we gotta do is drain the coolant. So you can see here that the bottle's low. So we need to come under the car. Got our pan, got a hose. I want to say it's a 13 millimeter wrench. And we have to get under here, and there's a little petcock we got to loosen. Underneath the radiator, front passenger side of the car, there's a petcock right here. It's got a little fitting. What we're going to do is we're going to take a piece of hose, and we're going to just slide that on there, just so it doesn't make such a mess, and then we could guide that into our pan. So we have a drain pan down here, and what we need to do is we need to loosen up this little valve. So it's just plastic. Don't go too rough on it. So we'll probably just crack it loose with a wrench, and then it should just be finger tight. Make sure you got your drain pan underneath the hose. Ratcheting wrench would be nice. Don't give you a whole lot of room. You can't really get a ratchet in there. But there we go. All right, now that we got it loose enough, you can see it start dripping down into our pan. Try to loosen it a little bit more. If you take it out too much, it'll actually start coming out of the bolt, so don't undo it too much. All right, so now that our coolant is draining, we're gonna go ahead and disconnect some of this auxiliary stuff up here to access that thermostat housing. We disconnect this hose. Just be careful with this stuff. A lot of it's plastic. Kind of keep track of all these connectors. If you think it's necessary, take a picture. Some of these connectors have like secondary locks. You need to pull out the lock and then depress the tab. Just like that. Undo the lock, and then you could depress the tab. Like that. Got some little anchored zip ties here. Instead of cutting the zip tie, if you compress the back side of these, it's like a little anchor. So there's two little tabs. If you just squeeze it, pops. Try to do at the back of the motor is disconnect these heater hoses. These go to your heater core and your dash. They got like a squeeze style clamp. So sometimes if you don't have the special tool, you can get in there with some pliers and just pinch them and move them forward. See if I can do this. Adjust these to the wide. So you just grab the two tabs, give them a squeeze, try to slide it up the hose like that. All right, and then should be able to get the hose off. I'm gonna let the coolant drain a little bit more. I don't know if it's all the way drained yet. Okay, so the coolant's drained enough, I believe, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull this upper heater hose off. We'll find out if it starts leaking. Yep, that's good. Okay, now we need to get to this lower hose down there. You pinch that clamp and get that off. All right, I was able to get that clamp off. Now we just gotta reach in there, pull it off the housing. All right, now we gotta get this upper radiator hose in the front. Gotta get that off. There's a clip right there. Get these plugs out of the way. All right, so instead of trying to get this radiator hose that's up here at the thermostat housing, I think I'm gonna try to take this end of it off of the radiator. Seems a little easier to get to, the clamp here. The way this clamp's orientated, I can't get the pliers on there. All right, so we got this upper radiator hose off. I ended up just unbolting the overflow bottle, just 2 bolts, swung that out the way. So I think now all we should really have is a few bolts holding this thing on. Maybe 4, and I think there's a tube under here that needs to get unbolted. I think there's 2 bolts. So let's go ahead and do that. So again, there are these 4 little reverse Torx, external Torx. I'm using the 12.5/16 on those to get those out. All right, guys, so we got all the bolts out. The 4 long bolts that go from like the battery area into the motor. There's 4 of those, and then there's 2 little short screws that go underneath. There's like a metal tube that comes in. And then there's also this, I don't know, it's like a hard plastic line that gets pressed into the housing here up top. There's a little plastic clip. Just pull that out and gently wiggle that thing back and forth, and it'll pop right out of there. So I think we're ready to get this out of here, like so. Try not to break stuff on the way out. All right, here we go. Okay, so here's all of our hardware. It's kind of weird. One of these bolts had a bunch of like oil and grease on it. I'm thinking that might be where our leak was. So here's those two bolts that are on the bottom. So this goes in the... Ooh, I think I just heard an accident on the freeway. So this goes in the motor like that. And you can see the bottom, there's two bolts. You gotta undo those. Be careful not to... I'm spilling coolant everywhere. Careful not to unbolt these. If you do, just tighten them back up. Here, let's drain this in here. Thermostat keeping the coolant in there. All right, and see there's a gasket on the back side. I think this housing might be cracked right here. So it looks like this thermostat housing is cracked right here. You can see it. That's where it's been leaking. It's been coming out, running down. So I'm gonna have to order one of these and get it replaced. Another common thing that I've seen is that these O-rings, you can see this one's all deteriorated. The gasket, it's all deteriorated. Even these housings too, they're made out of plastic, so over time they get hot and they warp. So I mean, if you're going through all the trouble of taking it off, in my opinion, depending on the price, I would say just replace this. Alright guys, well, with the magic of video, we got some parts. Amazon is your friend. A few days later, we ended up getting a thermostat housing. So right here, what we got is the Dorman OE Solutions thermostat housing. Part number 902-033. Of course, made in China, but it is what it is. So, fortunately, I see a little puncture here. I'm going to open this up. We got a full aluminum thermostat housing. Put it up here next to this. Comes with the sensors already installed, comes with a new gasket. Looks pretty similar. So give this one a shot, see how it goes. A few things that I did see when I was reading up on this online is sometimes there's some slag or whatever inside these. You could almost see right there down at the bottom. There's a little chunk of something. Down in the back of this guy. So I might try to stick something in there to break that off. I don't want that breaking loose in the motor. Alright, so I'm going to try to get that little piece of slag or whatever out of here. Oh, there it went. That was easy enough. See how easy that would have fell into the motor? So it's just a little bit of casting. So just take a quick look. If you get one of these, look in all these little passages. Make sure there's nothing funky going on. Seems like the only piece like that. Alright. So not only did we get this thermostat housing, we also got some tools to go with it. Also got a radiator hose. I ordered the heater hoses, but they're not here yet. We got some cable clamp pliers to make these squeeze clamps a little easier. We got some external Torx sockets that can help us out too. Right here. And we also got this coolant, no-spill coolant filling funnel kit. You know, whenever I do a job, I try to invest in some tools. I know they're not the best ones, you know they're cheap, but we're on a budget. So I'm going to just take a little razor blade and scrape all the old rubber gasket off of here. Just make sure when you use your razor blade to keep it nice and flat. You want it to be flat like this. You don't want to have it at an angle where you can gouge it, but if you just go straight like this, you'll just scrape off that stuff. You can see we got it fairly clean. This little aluminum flange. We're clean enough, good to go. All right, so here's that. This is that oil cooler pipe. This also gets screwed onto the bottom of the thermostat housing. Just gonna clean that off too. There's a little rubber seal on there. Couldn't find that anywhere without having to buy the whole thing. So we're just gonna hope that it's good. I might put a little bit of a sealant on there just to make sure that we don't get a leak. So what I got here is this LOCTITE 515, a little bit of a gasket seal / flange sealant. So I'm gonna just take just a little bit of this. Looks like grape jelly. And I'm gonna just smear that on that seal right down there. On that O-ring, give it just a little. So now we're gonna get our new thermostat put into place here. Set it there, get our bolts. Take our bolts, got those cleaned up. These are those external Torx. Just get these started finger tight. All right, so these fasteners, they are a E10, an E10. Just run them down, get all 4 started. Okay, so loosening up those bolts helps get that pipe lined up. It has to sit down in there. Then with a 6-inch extension, we could reach under here, get them screws started. Yeah, so what I did is I shifted that into the high gear, and that gives you more room to get to the screw right here. And now we can get a straight shot at it. Get that screw ran in. So get both of them in and started. All right, so we got the bolts ran down. We're gonna take our torque wrench. I have this set to 10 pounds. Another metric, but pretty close to a quarter inch screw. So we're just gonna easily run these down just a little bit more. If I could get the ratchet on here, I might need to shift that. All right, so this seems like what it's gonna work. I just reverted back to my quarter drive 5/16 12 point with a 1/4 to 3/8 adapter on my 3/8 torque wrench. Just get in there, don't go too crazy. Again, just snug them down first, then we'll do the final torque. So I'm thinking 10 pounds might be too much. I think the spec is like 70, maybe 70 foot-pounds. So we're gonna drop this down. Let's see, 5. We'll go 7 foot-pounds. Let's see how that feels. Feels pretty good. And it's a real light torque, so don't overdo it. Right there, crisscross. And again, you still gotta use the finesse when you're torquing stuff. Don't just keep cranking on it, waiting for it to click. If you feel like it's starting to come loose and strip out, stop. So I'm just gonna go over these a few times. Seems like a good torques. 7 foot-pounds, 7 times 120. Oh, what is that? 80, 84, 85 foot-pounds, or 84, 85 inch-pounds. I think that's pretty good. All right, now what we gotta do is we gotta get down there and we gotta torque those for that pipe. So put all of our socket extensions on here. This is probably gonna be too long. All right, get this on here. Just kind of snug them both up first. Again, thanks for watching the video. Like and subscribe. Do a little bit of everything here on Side Yard Mechanic. Work on our car, work on our old truck, work on bicycles. Whatever uses nuts and bolts and wrenches and hammers, we do it. All right, so we're just torquing these the same. 7 foot-pounds. Kind of go back and forth over them a few times. All right, so there we go. We got the thermostat housing mounted up to the engine. We ran our 4 bolts down till they were finger tight. We got our oil cooler tube installed so that it's seated in there. We put a little bit of sealant on it. We ran those 2 screws in. They used the E10 socket. We torqued them down. We torqued them to 7 foot-pounds, which is about 84, 85 inch-pounds. That felt pretty good. So now we got to get radiator hose installed and go from there. All right, so we got our new upper radiator hose. This is actually a AC Delco GM part. Was able to get this off Amazon also. See right there, GM. Try to get as much OEM stuff as I can. The thermostat housing, they wanted like 160 bucks. This Dorman one was $60. They had a cheaper Chinese one, you know, or even cheap for like 40. So I figured I'll go with the Dorman. Give it a shot. Hopefully it works. If not, it's got free returns. So we're gonna go ahead and get our clamps installed. We got our new fancy clamp tool. This thing is pretty amazing. So it's way better than using them pliers like I was using. All right, so we got our clamp expanded, put on over our hose. Get that started here on the thermostat housing. Make sure you got the side of the hose that says engine. Line that up with the little tab that's right there. I'm gonna slip our clamp over. Press this clamp a little bit more. Work it up. There we go. And the cool thing about this, then you just release. Boom. The clamp's on there, nice and tight. It's good to go. Now we gotta do this other one. So get this. So just be careful not to get the tab caught down here, or else it won't compress enough. So. And then when you squeeze the pliers, it ratchets and gets tight, like that. Slip this over our hose. Slip this over the radiator. Make sure that it's on all the way around. Thinking I'm gonna flip that. I put the clamp on the way I took it off, but it's real close to this wire harness. I think I'm gonna flip it around so that the clamp is on this side. There's a lot more room here. Get this way. Make sure the hose is on fairly good. Get the clamp so that it's towards the right here. Okay, and then we're gonna release this. There we go. This was well worth, I think, 15 bucks. I like it. Okay, so we got our radiator hose installed with our clamps. I'm waiting for the heater hoses. The reason why I want to replace these, you can see them here. They're a little cracked and dry rotted, so I'd hate to get this thing all filled up and then it spring a leak right here, you know. So these hoses are about 10 years old. So just want to wait for them to come in. Don't be impatient. So when the hoses come in, we'll be back on this job. Alright guys, so just like that, we got some hoses. Once again, Amazon came through. Some genuine GM parts. So these are our heater hoses. Going to be getting these installed. They go back here, so they go from the thermostat housing. Got the inlet outlet, and they run back here to the firewall. There's a little clip on these plastic things right here. I'm going to try if I can pop that up. I think we might be able to just... Oh, that was a lot easier. Alright, so now that we're out here outside of the car, I'm going to use the pliers. It's a little easier than using that remote clamp thing. That's good for like getting into places you can't reach, but I think this is a little easier if you have access. Slide that down. Now we need to get this rubber fitting off the hose. Okay, so this is the end that goes onto this plastic fitting. What we need to do is we need to transfer over our clamps. That guy on there, clamp, put back up here. So go ahead and route this in here. I'm gonna go on the top, slide in, make sure you feel that little key, lock in right there, and then press your clip down, make sure it doesn't come off. It's good to go. All right, go ahead and get the next one installed on the heater core. It's the same deal. We got our clamp on here, other clamp transferred. All right, I'm gonna get that clip popped up. That clip popped up here. All right, and this one, the tab is up here towards the top. So again, just get this routed. Make sure you're not snagging on any of the connectors or anything like that. I'm not blocking too much. Just kind of wiggle that on there. Make sure the O-ring's seated. Push it in, and then push the clip down, and then pull back on it just to make sure that it's locked in. You're good to go. Now we just need to hook these up to the thermostat housing down here. So on these hoses, there were arrows. Let's see if we could see it. This one, arrow goes in, and then there's an arrow cast also on the thermostat housing. Make sure those arrows are facing the same direction. Let's get that all the way down. So the arrow on the hose is pointing this way, and the arrow on the thermostat housing is pointed that way also, so they're going with each other. So we're going to do that. Try to get our little plier guys in here. Try to twist this. go. Get our other hose in position. Again, the arrow is pointing away from the thermostat. This is the one that's going to the heater core, and the arrow is also pointing out of the thermostat housing on the casting. Try to just get that on there. I need to take another bite at this here. Using pliers just to get it into position. This wire harness is in the way. All right, get that just so it's in the middle of the area. You don't want it right up on the edge of the hose, and you don't want it right on where the little nipple is on the fitting, so right in between. All right guys, so when you're connecting all your connectors, there's this plastic line that goes into the top fitting here. There's an O-ring. Make sure you just lube it up a little bit, and then when you get this clip on, make sure that it snaps into the right groove on the plastic part and underneath this little nipple area of this fitting, and then just make sure it doesn't come out. Don't yank on it too much. It is plastic. You don't want to break it. All right, so we got all of our connectors installed. We got our little bracket reinstalled. Put our little Christmas tree anchor guys in there. Make sure that if you have, the connectors with the secondary lock, when it clicks, lock that in. Now we need to just swing our overflow bottle, our little reservoir over here. Gonna get that mounted up, and we're gonna fill it up with some coolant. Our bottle reinstalled, got our hose hooked up. We went underneath. We made sure that our little petcock was closed and tightened down. Remember, it's plastic. You don't need to go too crazy. What we're gonna do, because there's some coolant down in here, we're gonna just hose this down a little bit. I'm gonna get some of that coolant out, so we can make sure that we don't get see any fresh coolant leaking. I'm gonna use our handy dandy little leaf blower here, so noise advisory. All right, so we got our little filling tool here. This is our no spill coolant funnel. I don't know if this is necessary when you have like an overflow bottle like this, because this is the highest point, and as long as you just keep this full, it should be good. But we bought it, so we're gonna go ahead and give it a shot. So in here it's got all the different adapters. I'm gonna find which one fits. All right, so we figured out the correct fitting here. It's got the little rubber seal that goes down in there. You want it to seal up. And then we got the plastic cap. Screw that down. There we go. Then we're gonna take our little fill bottle. This presses on there, and then this screws to the adapter. So some of them I seen, they got like a little plunger up top that plugs it in. This one actually has a valve. So open, closed. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and get this filled up. Before we do that, we need to pull out the bleed screw over on that side. Okay, so I'm gonna do this from this side just so you guys can see everything. There's a little plastic fitting here. It looks pretty much just like the valve at the bottom of the radiator. There's a plastic valve here. Of course, this air conditioning line is right in the way. What you're gonna do is you're just gonna take that out. We're just taking out this plastic bleed screw right here at the top of the radiator. Just looks like this. Just a little plastic plug. Put that somewhere where you don't lose it. And then we're gonna go ahead and fill up our bottle and our little tank here. Okay, so being that this is a Chevy, we're going to be using the GM Dex Cool. So go ahead and open your valve here and go ahead and start pouring that until we get up to the fill line down here on the bottle. And it's gonna start filling up the engine, and we should see some coolant come out of that bleed hole down on the other side. So it might take a few minutes. So just fill up the overflow bottle and let it drain down. Okay, so make sure that you have a catch pan underneath the car. Just gonna keep pouring into here. I think we're getting close. We're gonna watch that little weep hole. It's right over there by the AC line with the yellow sticker. Just gonna keep an eye on that. You can see there's coolant starting to come out of it right now. So as I pour coolant in, it's starting to come out right there. So what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna go ahead and put that plug back in. As we were filling up, we saw that there was coolant come out of there. Just gonna go ahead and get our little plastic plug back in. They conveniently put the AC line right in front of it. So just get it in there, make sure you don't cross thread it. Okay, we got our fill plug in. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and fill up our reservoir here to the fill line. That's right here where the seam is on this model. Let's go ahead and get this opened up. Let that go in so we get to our full line. Okay, so we turn on the car. We got the heater on full blast, all the way hot. We're gonna just run it, probably 5-10 minutes, get it up to operating temperature so that the thermostat will open, and we should see the coolant start to circulate. As the reservoir goes down, we'll keep it topped off by pouring some coolant here in the funnel. Okay, so the car's been running for a few minutes now. What you want to do is you just want to, visually inspect, make sure none of our hoses are leaking, fill them, make sure that they're starting to warm up. Even some of the hoses, you give them a little squeeze. That'll help push some of the air out of it. Just be careful, the motor is running. Don't get your hand caught in any of these fans, these belts that are going. So our lower radiator hose is starting to get warm. I don't think it's hot enough yet for the thermostat to open. Just keep an eye, make sure nothing's leaking. I actually have my scan tool hooked up here where I'm watching the live data. Temperature's going up. The engine light was on. I think that's because I had turned the ignition on with one of the connectors unplugged. So we're gonna have to go do some drive cycles, clear the code. It's not red, it's only yellow, so we just need to drive it. So we're gonna watch this as the temperature goes up, and then when the thermostat opens, the temperature should go down. Okay, so the car's been running now for probably 15-20 minutes. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and raise up the RPMs, making sure that the heater is blowing hot. That means that the coolant's passing through the heater core. Using our digital tech, or not digital tech, that's a Harley terminology, but our scan tool. We're gonna watch the temperature. So as we rev, the temperature should go up. Just keep it like 2 grand. Probably open the windows so you don't overheat in here. So the temperature is actually dropping. That means that the coolant is going through the radiator. So let's go take a look at our overflow bottle, make sure that it's not running empty. Alright, so our level's good. It actually went down just a little bit. I'm gonna also take a peek, make sure nothing's leaking. So far so good. Use your senses, if you hear something funny, if you smell something funny. Yeah, and fill your hoses. All your hoses are getting warm. pretty good. Gonna add a little bit of coolant to the bottle here, just to bring it up to that seam. Right there. All right, I think we're good. Our temperature is going up and down. Our bottle's right where it needs to be. We don't see any leaks anywhere. I'm gonna go ahead and take our little funnel setup off of here. Put our cap back on. Take a peek underneath the car. Make sure there's no leaks. Everything seems nice and dry, and it's got some coolant, you know, on there from when it was leaking initially, but it's all dry. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna take it for a test drive and see how it goes. All right, guys, so we're out taking the car for a test drive. Everything seems good. Got no engine lights on. Been watching the temperature with the scan tool. It's been staying between 195 and 210. So shows that everything's working. The temperature comes up, then it drops back down. Heater's blowing hot. We're gonna just do a few miles, take it back home, check it out. Thanks for watching. If this helped you, like, subscribe. If you have any comments or questions, drop it down there in the comment section. We'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks, appreciate it.